Hello. This is my first YouTube live, and it's taken me a little while to build up the courage to actually go ahead and do a YouTube live stream, but here I am today. I have been a little quiet on YouTube recently by comparison with my previous activity, and if you've been following the channel and hoping to see more videos, my first YouTube live. And it's taken me a little while to build up the courage to actually go ahead and do a YouTube live stream, but here I am today. I have been a little quiet. Sorry about that, slight technical hitch. As I say, I have been a little quiet on YouTube recently, and that has been really because I've been struggling with bereavement. So although there haven't been so many videos on the channel, I have actually been doing a lot of yoga practice. My yoga practice has been really helping me to come to terms with my loss and my grief. And perhaps that will be evident that my yoga practice has deepened as we work through today's sequence. Because it's YouTube live, it will be a bit longer than usual, and as we go into the longer sequence, it'll become a little bit more, a little bit stronger, a little bit more of a developed physical practice, let's say. Of course, at any point, feel free to dip out of the class, and there'll be points during the course of the session where I'll suggest that this might be a point to dip out if you feel that you've done enough. But otherwise, as always, work safely, work from the depth of your body, from the inside, moving outwards, rather than trying to necessarily push or force your body into the shape that you might be able to see me making. See if you can actually just dive quite deep into your own body to create the shape from the inside outwards. And that's when the yoga posture really becomes your practice, rather than copying my practice. And the yoga practice is always about yourself, your living presence, your energy within your body. And all I am as a teacher really is a conduit towards you finding that energy and space and life within yourself. It's all about connecting with the depth of your inner self. So having said all of that, let's think about bringing ourselves down onto the mat. And as we come down onto the mat, we're just going to let our spines lengthen out. Usually I like to lift my hips up and lengthen my waist out of my hips, and then bring my pelvis through towards the mat, balancing the weight out right side, left side, and letting the ribs lift up and lengthen away from the hips, and then as well just balancing the weight of the ribs out, right side, left side, and then can support the weight of the head with the hands and letting the neck lengthen from between the shoulder blades through to the crown of the head. And here in this position, spend a few moments to allow the body to soften, to allow the body to relax, and to essentially create some space. And crucially, as we come into movement practice, it's important to create space between our joints. So initially, we're going to think about relaxing the spine from the base of the head, all the little vertebrae through the back of the neck, softening and relaxing through into the vertebrae in the back of the rib cage, and then the vertebrae in the back of the waist. And by now the vertebrae are much bigger, much heavier than they are in the neck. And then the sacrum, where the hips and the spine join, and the tailbone. And important when we relax around the tailbone as well, to let go into the depth of the insides of our hip joints. We can, as well as we soften across the shoulders and the rib cage, relax and let go into our shoulder joints, and then on through into the elbows and the joints of the wrists and hands. At present, I'm letting my knees stay bent and the soles of the feet rest on the floor, because we're going to flow from this position in a moment. But again, it should be possible here to allow the bones to carry much of the weight of the legs to soften deep into your knee joints and to relax into the ankle joints and the joints of the feet. So especially as we breathe out, is a good opportunity to allow our spine to soften, to allow the spaces to open up between the vertebrae, to allow the spaces to open up in a very gentle way between the spine and the rib cage in the back of the body, to soften and relax between the shoulder blades and the rib cage, and then again on out into the shoulder joints and the joints of the arms. And as we breathe in, as we've softened, very often we can feel there's just a little bit more space. The breath can just dive a little bit more deeply, a little bit more freely into the body on our inhalations. And as well, we can relax through the lower spine, into the sacrum, on into the hip joints, as already discussed. But as we breathe out next time, and softening as well through the knee joints and the ankles into the joints of the feet. And then again, with the inhalation, there may be just that little bit more space to open into the energy of the breath from the inside again. So this breathing practice at the start of the session, and just connecting with opening and softening and relaxing from the depth of the inside, just beginning as I hope to set the pattern for the practice. So then, as you feel ready, with an exhalation, let's think about bringing our right leg in and towards us, and we can fasten in underneath the back of our right knee, and then just allowing the head and neck and the shoulders to stay relaxed. And now we can just circle the leg at the hip joint 2 or 3 times in one direction. Nice, free, easy breath here. And we can also just circle 2 or 3 times in the opposite direction, thinking about keeping our neck relaxed as we're flowing here, shoulders reasonably relaxed as well. And let's center the leg up in the hip joint. And as we breathe out, again, coming back to the idea of relaxing our spine, relaxing the shoulder joints and the hip joints, and we hug the leg in and towards us, and breathing in to release away. And then again, breathing out to bring the leg in and down and towards us, and breathing in to release away. So just in this way, working into body there. And then let's change to the other side. So we can bring the other leg in, fastening around the back of the knee. Let's just circle the leg in the hip joint 2 or 3 times, one direction. And again, letting the breath flow freely and keeping the neck and the shoulders as relaxed as possible. And then let's circle through in the opposite direction, just flowing through like that. Nice and easy, nice and relaxed. And then gradually, let's again allow that leg to center up in the hip joint, and we're going to hug the thigh in and towards us, lengthening, leading the knee in a comfortable way towards our shoulder joint each time. And crucially as well, finding that ease within the depth of the body, relaxing through the neck, relaxing through the spine, the back of the rib cage, spine in the waist, sacrum, tailbone. And it will always be helpful in that practice to keep the lower leg soft and easy and relaxed in our hip joint as well. Yeah. Good. So then we're going to let that leg soften back to the floor, and we're actually going to come back into that movement, but with more flow. So as we breathe out, hugging one leg in and towards us, breathing in, returning that leg to the mat. Breathing out, hugging our second leg in and towards us, breathing in, returning that leg to the mat. So each time as you're coming in, again, letting your spine soften and relax, breathing in, the tailbone a little bit rolls back into the mat. Breathing out, the leg comes in and towards you. Now this is as much a breath practice as it is a hip releasing practice. So really going for it with the breath. Let your exhalation end. And the inhalation begins and the leg comes down. Let the exhalation begin and the leg moves in. Let the exhalation end. and coming down. So as I'm talking, it's not so a real practice. So this is more the real practice. And you may be able to really feel how the breath moves in and out quite fully, quite strongly with that practice, just exchanging the energy within the body. And let's allow the practice to even up to both sides, the soles of both feet coming back to the mat. And once again, let's just space our spine out as we're lying on the floor and spending a moment just to soften again into the space that we've just been creating, and also to connect with the energy that we've just been experiencing. Allowing the breath to as well settle. Just allowing the exhalation, I think, especially to relax a little. And then, as you feel ready, we're going to move into gravity pose. This is another moving practice. And let's, as we breathe out, hug the right leg towards us. Now, this time we're aiming to keep the breadth of the hips in contact with the mat and the tailbone staying anchored to the mat and relaxing and broadening across the waist and the shoulders, but keeping the tailbone down. So there's our exhalation. And then with our inhalation, still aiming to keep our back, our pelvis, our ribs and our shoulders heavy, but allowing the arms to extend and the leg to extend. And then again, as you're ready, you're breathing out to allow the spine to relax, the shoulders to broaden, the ribs, the waist, the hips to relax into the mat. And then again, as you're ready, you're breathing in, rolling the tailbone into the floor and the arms extending and the leg extending. And once again, just as we breathe out, really allowing the body to sink and to soften into its own weight there. And then once again, breathing in. And then relaxing and letting go. So let's allow the gravity pose to flow through twice more on this side. And on this next round of the breath, we breathe in, we let the arms extend. We're going to let the leg cross over, let our right leg cross over the left leg, so the length of the thigh bones is connected. And here we're going to open the arms out towards the sides in line with the shoulder joints. So, in theory, you've got enough space to open both arms out at full length. And then as you twist, we're going to let the lower body twist towards the left side. And then what I recommend with these quite heavy positions where the legs are tied together is to press the left arm as you move the lower body into the twist to the left side. Press the left arm into the floor so that you can keep your right shoulder really anchored back towards the floor. And I tend to find pretty much as I'm doing this that my head and neck feels ready to slip over to the other side. So always give that a go if it feels comfortable. I'm going to keep looking upwards because my voice will project better in that position, but see what feels best to you, head center or head to the side. Now, with these twists, when the legs are crossed, the spinal mobility might often take us quite far in. But what we might be able to observe is that we've lost the opening sensations to a high degree in the back of the hip and in the outer thigh. So I really recommend just coming to the point where you experience that first resistance through the back of the hip and the outer thigh, just pausing and breathing there, 2 or 3 breaths, and then often some of the edge of that position, the resistance wears off after 2 or 3 breaths, and then just gently we can move a little bit more into that rotational action there. And again, with the twists, sometimes they're quite strong and our breath slightly disappears. So I do recommend just keeping the navel drawing to the spine, thinking in terms of your breastbone gently lengthening away from your face with your exhalations. And there's a possibility that you may be able to soften and relax between the shoulder blades and the back of the rib weight here as well. So last 2 or 3 breaths here, you might just edge into that next point of resistance as we soften and aim to relax and to let go from the inside in our spinal twist here. And as we're coming back, what I always recommend is to, in order not to lose the opening that we've been creating in the back of the hips and the outer thigh, is to come back with our core and abdominal strength. So really hugging the abdominal wall towards the back, navel pulls the spine, and hugging this upper side of the ribs, the right side of the ribs, the right side of the waist, into the center of the body, so you can come back from the strength in the core, and the legs are still relatively soft and relaxed. We don't lose all that space we've been creating with tension. So again, I'm just lengthening my neck out here for a moment, and then we're going to think about moving into one of these little Ardha Pavanmuktasana positions. And as I uncross my leg, I'm aiming in my practice to hold the angle that I've just had through the back of the thigh, back of the hip, in position here. Yeah. And then from there, I'm going to think about sliding and lengthening my lower leg away. Now, it could be that your knee just doesn't feel very comfortable in this slightly angled position, in which case I would suggest just come right back through into the parallel leg position. There's no point at all in working a position where the knee joint is taking a lot of rotation and it doesn't feel comfortable. The idea really more is that the hip joint takes the rotation, and that may not be quite viable yet for some people in this particular practice, because we haven't really been rotating the hips much so far. So once again, as we're ready here, we might always just hold the leg with both arms. Breathing in, we might try to create space between the tailbone and the crown. Roll the tailbone into the mat, reach the crown of the head, and move away from it, opposite direction. And then as you breathe out, relaxing your spine, your shoulders, ribs, waist, hips into the mat. So we've already been here a little while. So I've been discussing the position that we might feel ready to move into the next one. The next one, my idea for that is Susya Sarandasana. And we can always say just cross the right ankle over the left leg, and ideally really sinking that hip joint away from the body, opening the inside hip, opening the inner thigh away from us here, and just trying to balance the weight up quite a bit through the back of the hips. And then from here, if it feels comfortable, you can breathe out, bring the legs in and towards us, really pressing the right elbow into the right inner thigh. So pretty much ideally creating a right angle at the back of this lower leg, and breathing. So sometimes this is quite a strong position. The spine and the neck and the upper back take up quite a lot of tension. Just checking in with that, seeing if you can soften and relax it. And sometimes it is useful in Susya Sarandasana, to, instead of lifting the legs up, just pop the lower leg onto a brick or a block. Or if that doesn't feel as though there's much work happening, then you could pop 2 there. Or again, it could be a little stool or a pile of books. It really doesn't matter. Just to get some support in the position. Good. So last round or so of the breath here. Susya Sarandasana, the keyhole. And then let's, as we're ready, bring the legs back through towards the mat. We can uncross. That's a good point at which just to extend the whole body. Reach a long stretch up, reach a long stretch down. And just for a moment, relaxing and absorbing and feeling the difference between our right hip and right leg and our left side, our left hip and our left leg. Softening the breathing, and again, just being in the body from the inside out. Seeing if it's possible to be mainly within that length and breadth and depth of space that is your own body and the energy that circulates there. So, of course, gradually we need to think about flowing all of that little sequence through on our left side. So here we are again. We can let the knees bend. We can lengthen out through our spine. And let's return to the gravity pose this time on our left side. So that's going to involve, as we breathe out, just hugging the left thigh in and down and towards us, relaxing through the back of the pelvis, back of the waist, back of the ribs, shoulders. And then again, as you're breathing in, extending fingertips right through into, as gently as you can, into the length of the left leg. So again, as we breathe out, relaxing the weight of our body into the mat, spine, the ribs, the shoulders, right through to the tailbone, keeping that in contact with the mat. And then again, letting the body stay heavy on the floor, but just the arms and the leg drift upwards, just lightly. And then again, as we're ready, breathing out, just sinking, letting go into gravity. So let's flow through a few times in rhythm with your own breath, just softening, relaxing, letting go. And always useful and helpful to keep our other leg as relaxed as possible in the hip joint. And this will definitely enable the working leg to open and lengthen that little bit more than it otherwise would. So now we're working into that last couple of rounds now of the gravity pose. And with the last round, which could be with the next breath, we're going to just think about, on the exhalation, crossing the left leg over the right leg and the arms opening out towards the sides. And being here, how about we once again just think about our supine spinal twist. So this is where, if you know, you've got your arms nicely spaced out, it's difficult in my particular case, you can press now your right arm firmly into the floor and just keeping your left shoulder anchored towards the mat, gently allowing the lower spine to begin to move into this spiraling action towards your right side. And again, as with the first side, pausing, just experiencing where you feel that first resistance coming into this position. It could be across the lower back and the outer thigh. Usually it will be around those regions. And then on our exhalations, we can relax through the spine, broaden out through the shoulders, letting our exhalation stay nice and long, navel drawing to the spine, breastbone lengthening gently away from the face. And again, as I say, after every few breaths, you just probably begin to notice, oh yes, that little bit of that edge of resistance has worn off. Just soften into that next point, breathing in. So again, let's think about the last couple of rounds of breath here in this little supine spinal twist. And as with the first side, we thought about coming back, mainly using our core strength. So hugging the ribs in towards the center of the body, hugging the side of the waist in, drawing the navel to the spine, flattening the abdominal wall towards the back, and just eventually we get back into the middle. And the theory is we come back, the legs have stayed relaxed in the hip joints. We might even feel a little shunt around our sacrum there as we've opened the muscles up in that sacroiliac region there. And then the idea is to gather that upper leg in and towards us. And as I said on the first side, we're thinking about bringing the leg in on this slightly unusual angle. But equally, we don't need to. We can bring the leg into a parallel position if that's really what feels a lot more comfortable to us individually. So once again, in either position, either the slight angle or in parallel, as we slide the lower leg away, keeping the inside leg in line with the tailbone. And the aim is, as that leg extends, to feel the tailbone reach through towards that heel, that lower heel. The crown of the head opens in the opposite direction. And then now we've put the spine under a tiny little bit of traction. And as we're breathing, we may be able to feel a little bit more responsiveness, a little bit more space, opening up around the spine, possibly as well into our hip joints, and ideally as well through the outside back of the hip, outside of our thigh, back of our hip here. So we're breathing, everybody, and trying to relax as much as possible at the same time as being in asana. Good. So now then gradually making the transition through to the keyhole, the Sisasarandasana. And then we're just going to take our left ankle and popping it onto the right thigh. And this is where I really, really recommend, what we said in lots of videos before, relaxing deep into the depth of your hip joint here. Because so often people are trying to open their thighs all forwards, and it just is really not very effective. So we try to relax deep into that hip joint, let the thigh move slightly away from us, balance the weight of the pelvis across towards our right side, lengthening through the spine. Once again, I usually hollow deep in the lower abdomen and then bring everything through one fell swoop. Alternatively, as I was mentioning on the first side, I think it's actually a lot more effective to keep the legs lower, but the thigh open at the hip joint. In this position, it'll be much more effective at opening the back of the hips. Much less stressful. Because, as always, I do think when the spine is really relaxed, the spine in the neck relaxed, spine in the ribs relaxed, spine in the waist, that the body will be able to open more. Now, the spine, when it's relaxed in an asana, does need to be supported, either as here by the floor or by the core in standing. But there is this idea really of the spine being at ease within the center of the practice. Fully supported, lengthening, opening, energy flowing. So now let's breathe here to keep the energy flowing in this asana. And we can always just allow the spine again as much as possible, softening the back of the spine, letting it relax as we breathe out. Breathing in, trying to find space. And breathing in. Just again, relaxing into that space. All right, so last breath here, Sisasarandasana. And then as you're ready, let's bring the legs back through towards the mat. And we can just uncross that leg. And then from there, we can lengthen out through our whole spine, sliding our legs away, reaching a long stretch up, reaching a long stretch down, letting the spine open and lengthen in the center. And as you're breathing out, arms coming to the sides, and we can just allow the knees and the toes to roll outwards. We're spending a moment or two to breathe, to relax, to be here, and to absorb our practice up to this point. Good. So then gradually we're going to stir ourselves back into action. And we can always just roll over, coming onto one side, and then pressing up away from the floor towards a seated position. So again, if you wanted to duck out of the practice at this point, you could. Or otherwise, we're going to think a little bit about coming into seated hip opening. Now, we've already been working quite a lot on opening our inner thighs and our hips, and you might feel quite comfortable here, just gently widening and releasing from the hip joint towards the knee in this position. Sometimes as well, it's difficult for people to really get that lift through the back. And unless the thighs are a little bit lower than the hip joints, unless you're actually able to get the knees reasonably low, the inside leg muscles as a group won't really be able to lengthen because they begin on the pubic bone, and unless you can begin to get some space between the pubic bone and the top of the thigh bone, that lengthening is just not happening really at all. So it's better to pop up onto something and see if you can begin to feel that space opening gently from the inside rather than forcing it from the outside. And here, I thought we could do a little bit of spinal twisting. We can, again, flow, so you can stay on a block and tuck the legs in if that's comfortable. You can stay like this, legs can go wider, or legs can extend, everything potentially on the block as well. But if you're comfortable like this, you can come into this position, gives us a nice stable base, and let's begin to flow. So initially, lengthening our spine so you can breathe in, and breathing out, keep lifting up into the crown of the head. And breathe in and open. And breathing out, just flowing the arms back down, spine staying nice and lifted. And then gradually into this, let's add a spinal twist. So we're going to breathe in, flow tall. Breathing out, spiraling our spines towards the right side. Breathing in, we're going to let the arms flow back up and draw center. And once again, as we breathe out, arms floating downwards. So although we see the movement really all in the arms here, we're using our breath, using the reach into the arms to lengthen the spine. And then as you're breathing out, arms just flowing to the side, keeping the spine really tall, tailbone to crown, and then once again breathing. And releasing the arms down. So let's breathe once more to both sides. Nice tall spine. And breathing in. And again, as we need, breathing in. And breathing out. Let's try that once more. Breathing in. And breathing out. And the last time as you're ready. Breathing in, and with our exhalation, staying tall, but the arms relaxing, shoulders relaxing. Now let's change the direction of our spinal flow here, and we might just stick on one side. So as we breathe in, really letting this underside arc up beneath you, flowing up and over and across. Breathing in to flow up, and then just staying more or less to that side, opening upwards through this waist, opening the spaces upwards and over through this upper side of the rib cage. Breathing in to return. So right from the base of the spine, the movement is intended to flow, rather than that you're pulling the body over and down with your arms. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't go far, but it's yoga. And we're aiming and looking to feel the energy open from the base of our spines right through. So let's give that one more breath on the side, that upwards and outwards and over. And then we come back through to the center. And then off we go to the other side. So we breathe in, lifting up. Lots of space through the side of the waist, opening upwards, upwards, and then just over to emphasize that lengthening. So it's our exhalation to move from the base of the spine up and over, breathing in to create space, and then breathing out to move into that space, to move through the space to find greater length and openness, all once again from the inside. Yeah. So last breath here. Good. And then back up and through to the center. So let's bring ourselves, well, you may be already on the length of the mat, but if you aren't, let's think about bringing ourselves onto the length of the mat. And we're going to let the right leg come and look a bit ahead of us here, and the left leg a little bit staggered. And the idea is to open upwards and forwards over the legs. So once again, it may be that it's a good idea to hop up onto a block, or we might hop up onto a folded blanket or potentially a cushion or pillow, doubled up pillow, also useful. And then from here, ideally, we get this lift once more right from the base of the spine, trying to find the strength deep within the pelvis to lift the hips up and over the chunky balls of our thigh bones there, yeah, and the hip joints. So lift up and over, and the collarbones nice and open, and shoulder blades releasing there in the back. So this is quite a strong position, and we've already been opening the back of the hips and the outer thighs to come here. But it's still going to be challenging despite that, I think. So a breath or two longer here as you feel comfortable, maybe not so deep, but just thinking about what feels right for you. So then keep the abdominal muscles working. We're going to lift up and away from that position. We can keep our left leg a little bit folded there and our right leg extending. So again, if that throws your back out a lot, just let the knees stay more bent. So again, you might be on the block, or you might be sitting on the floor. And if you find you're sitting on the floor, and the back's sunk back, just let the knees stay soft. And here we're going to flow. Again, coming back to a flowing movement. So breathing in right from the base of the spine, all the way through the length of the spine. So I'm actually breathing into here, and then breathing out to roll back up through my spine. So again, breathing in, rolling through, and breathing out to roll right back up again through my spine. Now, the arms come with us, but if I let my arms go really far forwards first, then I'm stuck here. This is my range. But if instead, and it's tricky because we tend to move with the hands and the arms first, but we're going to try and really find our spine, and a bit like a dolphin diving through, lead with the crown of the head, flow through the spine. And once the spine is at its extended position, reaching the arms in feels nice. And then once again, breathing out, rolling back up like that. So let's just give it another flow through. And then rolling back up like that. Good. And then we'll let the legs relax a little bit. Just bring them back into alignment. And then off we go to our other side. So that's going to involve tucking this time the right leg a little bit more back and the left leg being a little bit more forwards. And then once again from here, this idea of lifting the pelvis up and over, the balls of the thigh bones in the hip sockets. So you really create that space between your bones to come forward, beginning to get that opening across the back of the hips and into the outer thighs. Now, you may well feel this as well in the inner thighs, but I think it's more in the back of the hips, outer thigh. So breathing here. So same with this one. Wherever the spine is, once the spine is lengthened, if the arms go way forwards, I'm stuck here. But when my arms are back here, my spine can go on moving, because it's really about the spine moving. It's a slow movement, but it's movement. And again, seeing if we can bring it through from the depths of our body, moving outwards. Yeah. So again, last breath here, this funny little cricket version of Baddha Konasana. And let's breathe in, bring ourselves back up. So again, our right leg can, broadly speaking, stay where it has been, and left leg extending. So same adaptations as last time. It might very well be that we're flowing with this knee bent. We might be sitting on the block. So I need to bring it out to demonstrate it a little bit more, with a little bit more freedom of movement. So again, I'm rolling up and over, and then lengthening tailbone to crown. So that dolphin type feeling, and then rolling back up again. So breathing in and breathing out. Like that. And that one. Shall we give it one more flow? And coming back. So then let's release that leg and we let the legs roll inwards and outwards again. Just letting them come back into an evened up position. And then the next thing we're going to think about is bending our knees, and legs can stay pretty much parallel in line with the hip joints, or we can bring them a little bit wider than the hip joints. So wide as the yoga mat, let's say. And again, the spine really tall and lengthened, waist nice and strong. Navel drawing to the spine, lower abdomen engaged, and then spinal twist coming through here. So I think inevitably with this particular twist, the legs are more or less leaded, but keep the spine supporting itself. Let the spine know that it's staying well integrated in what is happening here, that it's not being too much dragged by the legs. Now, this is one of these funny ones that tends to work its way up the length of the mat. That's it. Good. Yeah. So after a few, I'm going to run out of space, and that will pretty much bring us to the end of this particular practice, I think. So there we are. We'll work through that last one or two if you've still got space. But if, like me, you've run out of space, we're going to have to just move ourselves back. So again, if you feel comfortable in your body here, it might be coming into the next hips to heels position and perhaps deciding to close off the practice at this point. Or alternatively, you can keep flowing, but we're going to get a little bit stronger again from this point. But let's first of all, before we decide to flow on or to flow away, we're just going to send the hips back and towards the heels, keep our waist lengthening, the sides of our ribs lengthening, collarbones open and relaxing between the shoulder blades and the rib cage, and the arms just extending there. So in this position, really allowing the body a little bit of repose. We've been working again quite strongly, opening our hips and lengthening our spine, and just allowing the body to really absorb that work that we've been doing. It's connecting through the length and breadth and depth of space of the body, and being aware of the spine, the space through the spine, the weight of the spine, and the interaction between the breath and the spine in this practice. Good. And then from here, gradually, we're going to think about flowing into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. The flow in and flow out a few times. And the advantage of flowing in and out without holding for a long time is that if you know that you're not going to need too much strength to hold your downward facing dog position, you can perhaps open and extend it a little bit more than you would if you know that you need to work with the strength to sustain the position. So as I come forward for my Adho Mukha Svanasana, I lift in the lower abdomen. I actually move from the tailbone, keep the navel drawing to the spine. I let my spine lengthen and I draw the shoulder blades down the back so I feel the muscles just here connecting the back of my upper arm. I tuck my toes under and I'm lifting, essentially not with my legs, but from here. So I hollow and reach back. So opening right back, lengthening through the outsides of the arms, through the outsides of the rib cage, outsides of the waist, deep lift lower abdomen, navel to the spine, drawing up through the kneecaps, fronts of the thighs, and just letting the heels begin to sink. So really lift up kneecaps, fronts of kneecaps, inside kneecaps, and the heels sinking away. So we're going to breathe out to here, breathe in here, breathe out here, and then as you're ready again, in breath, we pass through to our all fours, Exhalation, we're already back again in Shashankasana, hips to heels. So it's a round or two of the breath here. And then once again, as you do that, lift from the muscles just in front of the tailbone, lower abdomen, midsection, shoulder blades moving down the back, spine lengthening, hollow deep, lower abdomen. Reach back, thighs and abdomen together, really open, outside arms, outside ribs, outside waist. Deep lift, lower abdomen, let your heels sink away, pulling up through the kneecaps, fronts of the thighs. Ears and arms are in line. You can breathe in here, breathe out here, breathe in again. Coming down with control and breathing out. We send the hips back and towards the heels. So a breath or two to relax here. And then once again, flowing forwards, toes tuck on under, out breath to reach back and up. Breathing in, breathing out here, breathing in again. Flowing down and breathing out to extend. So we're going to flow once more and then we just rest it for a moment. So again, a round of the breath here. Breathing in. And as you repeat out breath, press back. Now this time, because we've been working the shoulders quite a bit, if it's comfortable, we let the arms come around and alongside the legs, and just letting go across the breadth of the upper back, shoulders, weight of the head, resting into the mat. Now sometimes the weight through the neck is too strong in the child, so consider just popping a block in so that the head is a little bit lifted away from the floor. If you wedge it in between your thighs and your chest, it can take the pressure off the neck. So the body to be easy here and reasonably relaxed. And then once again, we're just going to flow from the child, going to come back into downward facing dog. And from the downward dog, we can either stride one leg forwards to between the hands, or we can step in from the all fours. So I'm going to stride in when I come up, but if that doesn't feel right for you, you can always come back down from the downward dog into the all fours position and just breathe in, step one leg forward. And then from there, we're going to think about bringing ourselves up. So that might be as well that blocks are handy for you if you're coming up into that split kneeling position. So we're going to flow it as well as into that. So let's send the hips back again. And you don't need to come through downward facing dog if you're not going to stride in. But if you're thinking about striding in, it's coming forwards and then back and up, lots of space, and really structure that space back through your spine, sides of the body lengthening, abdominal muscles lifted, navel to the spine. We're going to lengthen back powerfully into our left hip, left sitting bone, keeping that left waist long. We can raise the right leg behind us, breathing in. And then as you're ready, breathing out, we can just flow that leg forward to between our hands, or we pass through the all fours position. Now from here, again, a little bit of space between both knees, bringing that back knee down. And from here, we're going to a little bit either roll, reaching forwards and upwards from here, tailbone to crown, and then lengthening back. So as you lengthen back, the key is as well to try and keep the small of the back pretty long. Your waist really lengthening and reaching back, and then coming forwards as you're ready. Now that's quite a strong version. So as I was indicating before, you can be quite a lot higher. You can come right up like this, and then just moving gently forward, holding this rear hip pretty square, lifting up tailbone to crown, and then lengthening back so you've got the blocks to support you No need to overwork the hamstrings. Breathing in to move forwards and upwards. With the back knee, again, ideally you've come fairly far forward on the knee, that you're not working too hard against the kneecap, but also padding up underneath that leg. So last round or two of the breath in this position. Again, you can modify it to the halfway position. This is another one where I think it's important to find the position from the inside. So rather than just sinking down, pushing into my hip joints, it's not what I'm doing. I'm feeling from the base of my spine into my tailbone, holding that space, structuring it, and then lifting space through my waist away. And as I move back again, I'm thinking about the space in my spine, not letting it jam up, but holding the breath across my pelvis, openness in my hip joints, and I'm moving into the space that I've already felt on the inside, rather than pushing into resistance and hoping for the best, because that's how we can often feel a little bit uncomfortable after the breath. So eventually, we're going to just breathe in, breathe out, bring that front leg back. We can press our hands into the mat. You can send hips to heels for a rest, or again, lifting from the depths of the pelvis, and reach back and up, opening from our fingertips through the sides of our bodies, the outsides of our arms, sides of the ribs, sides of the waist, right back to the sitting bones, deep lift in the abdominal muscle. So once again, if you prefer, you're moving from the all fours. You can from here just step through, or you can breathe in, lengthen back through your right hip and waist as you reach the left leg up, and then with your exhalation, in theory, loads of space to come forwards. So once again here, I lengthen my spine between the crown of the head and the tailbone and the back heel, and I bring the back knee down, and that's what gives me stacks of space here. I breathe in, and then I breathe out, reach the tailbone back. And the spine rounds and the leg straightens. We've lost a lot of that hamstring lengthening that we may be looking for. So equally, we can modify our positions, much less distance, much more height in the body, breathing in and breathing out. Still trying to lift from the base of the spine, feel the pelvis open. And breathe out. So hope that is working for you. Halfway position as well. And then once again, as we're ready, we can just release our blocks or bricks, and breathing in, breathing out, we can send this leg back. Let's once again move back and up. Adho Mukha Svanasana, so pressing away from our hands, lifting the strength, especially when your knees are still bent. You've got much more opportunity to lift space through your shoulder joints, get those outer arms working, ribs lengthening, waist lengthening, deep lift, lower abdomen, heels sink away, spine nice and up. So again, knees don't need to strain. Breathing. And then again, as you're ready, just going to allow our knees to bend, bringing ourselves back through to the mat. We can let our toes come together, our knees go wide, sink the hips back towards the heels, letting our spine lengthen forwards. And then eventually the arms can open outwards too. So a few moments just simply to relax, to absorb what we've been doing through the practice so far. So gradually, as you're ready, just walk back little by little through the arms, coming back up to the seated position. And we're going to think about coming up to standing for the next part of the sequence. I need to just move my camera back. Should be fine. Oops. Excuse me. And I'm going to bring my mat back a little bit. So again, this is going to up the practice, and it becomes just a little bit stronger again from how it has been. And from here, we're going to gradually move into Warrior 2, and then we're going to come into Anjaneyasana. So, but to begin with, as we adapt to being in standing, let's just work a little breath-led spinal twist practice. So we can bring our legs in underneath our hip joints, thinking about really experiencing the weight moving down through our bodies into our feet, letting the weight balance up between the front of the foot and the back of the foot, and then through the backs of the legs, heels to sitting bones, through the fronts of the legs, kneecaps, front of hips, but also through the inside legs arch, inside of the knee, inside of the hip joint, a bit of strength, threading up into our pelvis and the gluteal muscles working to sustain us here. Spine once again, nice and open. You know, and the legs are working well, and the pelvis, nice bit of strength going on behind and in front, and the spine, much more chance to lift nice and freely. So let's, as you're ready, come back to a practice very similar to something we've already done. But we did it in seated, and we're going to breathe in, let the arms flow up. We're going to let our spine spiral towards the right, but we're going to aim to keep pressing this right hip forward so the weight stays even through our feet. So our exhalation here, breathing in again, growing tall, coming back to the center, and breathing out, letting our arms come down. So once again, that lift up through the legs, just like I was describing. Breathing out, pressing your left hip forward as you spiral through your upper spine. And then once again, breathing in to come center. Breathing out to release the arms down. So let's just flow this through a little bit more. Breathing in and breathing. And take it through one more round to each side. And again, just a moment to pause. Just a moment to be in stillness and in standing. To be aware of the energy moving through the spine, the energy of the breath at present. And again, just being centered in our own energy, in that space and that energy from out of which ideally we're flowing our own practice at present. And then from here, we're going to think about coming into a wide-legged position and a little bit practicing Virabhadrasana 2. So this is going to work that we're going to flow two practices one after the other. So we're going to come into, I'll just demonstrate quickly. We're going to come into the Warrior 2 and we'll flow in and out 2 or 3 times. And then we're going to keep our leg strength really lifted, and we're going to let the spine spiral, but we're also going to let that back heel lift up as we keep pulling up through our kneecap, front of thigh, and even back of thigh, and the glutes working. We'll come up into Anjaneyasana, so crescent moon pose. And then from here, really, it's our spine that flows us through. It can pass quickly through Parsvatanasana, sorry, and then step back, and then we'll walk back up to standing. Now, it could be as well with this practice very handy to have your bricks near the front of the mat, especially for that transition coming down to the forward bend. So they can just, if you've got them, you can have them. So we're going to take that wide leg position, legs nice and open. So again, we find it comfortably for ourselves. And the idea is that we feel our muscles supporting our joints firmly, rather than that we feel we're straining into our joints and our joints are supporting the position. We want to feel the muscles around the joints are supporting all of these positions, ideally. So let's draw up through the kneecaps, fronts of the thighs. Let's get that lift again that we just thought about a minute ago. Heels through the backs of the legs into the sitting bones, gluteal muscles working. And arch of the foot lifting, inside knee lifting, strength threading right up into our hip joints. And then from here, let's breathe in to revolve your back leg. In theory, your left leg turning in. Try to keep the muscles all pulling up. Breathing out here, pulling up still through these muscles, breathing in, breathing out, we turn out. Now, sometimes our legs just let go of the pull up, so never mind. We pull everything back up again here. So just coming back to all of those leg muscles working. And then in a gentle way, we're going to come into the lunge position from here. So that's where we need to really let that back hip open, keep reaching through inside hip to inside heel, front leg lengthen, so we're centered pretty much more or less. So let's breathe in, breathe out, hands to namaste. And then as you're ready, we're breathing in, reaching into the twist, breathing out here. So let's breathe in, bring the hands back into namaste. Breathing out, really opening wide. And then again, breathing. Now, if it works for you here, you can breathe out, the arms go wide. If it works, you can breathe in to extend through your front leg to pass the hands through to namaste. And breathing out, so remember to keep that back leg and back hip opening actively, that you're not lunging too much forward, this knee going too far. Breathing in, pulling up through the back of the leg into the gluteal muscles, pulling up through the front of the leg, inside leg. And again, out breath, back into your lunge. Breathing in and breathing out. So keep that awareness in the back leg that it keeps opening. And let's take one more round of the breath here. And back into our Virabhadrasana 2 lunge. So now this is where we're going to let the upper body begin to move into a spiral. Using our back muscles and abdominal muscles. Keep pulling up through the kneecap, front of the thigh, inside leg, lifting heel to sitting bone as you peel that back heel away from the floor. And as we've got here, lifting up through our whole spine, reaching tall, can reach into that back heel. So crescent moon pose here. We try to really swing this hip forward, breathing. And then as you're ready, just going to let our spine lengthen forwards and downwards. So arms might come downwards, keep lots of energy going into your back heel. If it feels better to take up your bricks or blocks doing that, or you might come to rest on your front thigh. You might bring your back leg in a little bit. So then, as you're ready, weight transfers back a little bit towards that back heel. So bricks or blocks, where you may be here, but keep swinging that back hip, your left hip forward. Then from here, we're going to step back and up, downward facing dog. So the upper back engages, forearms, breathing in, breathing out, we step back. Adho Mukha Svanasana, really pressing away from the hands, lifting up through the outsides of the arms, sides of the ribs, sides of the waist, sit bones, deep lift, lower abdomen, midsection, breathing in. Good. Is that downward dog, not a resting position. It's still hard work, but the body is symmetrical. And in that way, you know, the brain can relax here. The brain can let go of the work and simply be in the energy and the space that we're creating. And as you're ready, we're going to walk back through our upper body, and through Uttanasana, lifting sitting bones high, away from our heels. And then as you're ready from here, let's roll up through our spines, segment by segment, rebuilding, right back up to standing. So spend a moment or two just to adjust again to being and standing, just to absorb what we've been doing. And then from here, let's step around again. So you can do it in one great big step, or you can do it little by little. So same sequence, but going to our other side. So we might, again, think about it if we're using bricks or blocks, popping them up to the end of our mat. And then once again, tailbone drops down, spine lovely and tall, threading the strength up fronts of legs, backs of legs, heels to sitting bones, inside legs, really tall through your spine. Breathing in from the top of the hip, right leg turns inwards, and breathing out, just resting it there. Breathing in, left leg turns outwards, breathing out, just resting it there. So we might pull up through all our leg muscles once again. And then as you're ready, we're moving into our lunge. So back hip opens and lengthens away from the back thigh opens and lengthens away from the hip, lunging into that front leg, and the arms open. And that's it. So let's breathe in and breathe out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And again, if it feels comfortable, we can breathe in, extend through our front leg. Breathing out, coming back into the lunge, but remembering to actively open the back leg from the hip, keeping the muscles strong. Breathing in, we draw up through the front of the thigh, the inside leg, lift into the glutes to really make that action feel steady and strong. So let's give this one more breath. And then again, feeling that your front leg is really strong, heel down, ball of the foot down, pad of the little toe, arch strong, muscles all working, inside leg. And then as you're ready, out breath to begin to spiral through. And then we release that back heel, keep pulling up through the kneecap, front of the thigh, inside leg, and connecting, pulling up heel right up into your gluteal muscles. Once again, base of the spine to crown of head. We breathe in, Anjalayasana, crescent moon pose. So really beautiful position, lots of extension, spine reaching back, tailbone to heel, spine reaching up and forwards into the crown, into the sky, heart center open and breathing. Good. So then as you're ready, go to fold forwards, leading with our spine, base of spine to crown of head coming forwards. Weight shifts a little bit back, spine keeps lengthening, abdominal muscles working. This is another one where you need to lift the weight of your hips off the tops of the thigh bones and revolve the pelvis into the position. But alternatively, we come through with our bricks or blocks and the back leg comes in. So avoid too much pull at the back of the knee, in the front leg, in Uttanasana. It is a strong position. Front knee can always stay bent at pause, trying to lengthen and open our spine in conjunction with opening the back of the leg. Then, again, as you're ready, breathe in. Breathe out, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So head comes to the inside of the front knee. Lift the power and strength into the upper back. We might need to shuffle that back leg away. Deep lift in the abdomen. And we step back here all the way through Magnificence. So breathing in this position. And sometimes if you've got enough energy here, it's quite nice to flow. So I feel as if I could just flow through, rounding my spine, breathing in, and then breathing out, reaching back. So as I roll through, trying to think about almost being like a wave rolling into shore, breathing in, and then breathing in. So if you prefer, you just relax down into the child. If you feel after those strong standing positions that something to really flow the energy that you've released afterwards is what you need, just giving it a little bit of a go. Now on one of these, we might just flow ourselves all the way through to the floor from our plank. Instead of lifting back up to downward dog, we can bring it down one fell swoop. Hopefully our block's not too close. Or, of course, you don't have to come down one fell swoop. You can come down little by little. So being here on the mat, let's think about our deep lift in the lower abdomen. Navel drawing to the spine, our bandha. Floating ribs, just gathering into the center of the body. Let's breathe in. Moving forwards and upwards. Let's breathe out to flow back down. Let's breathe in. Lots of strength around the ribs. Moving us in. Breathing out to flow back down. Yeah. We try mainly to find this lift from out of our core strength. Engaging the strength into the back of the ribs, sides of the ribs, front of the ribs, core muscles wrapping around. So the spine is truly freeing and lengthening here, rather than being pushed or forced from the outside. You're structuring the strength around your spine from the inside. So last round of the breath. And let's bring ourselves down and let the heels roll outwards and hips gently rock side to side. Breathing in this position, relaxing, letting go for a few moments. And then gradually, gently, as you're ready, we're going to press back up and towards the child. Get a nice lift in the abdominal muscles. Reaching back, lots of space. Arms can come alongside us here. Support the weight away from the head and neck with blocks. That feels better. Just again, spending a few moments to relax here and to let go. And then once again, as you feel ready, we're going to roll up through our spines. We're going to come into seated position again. So this time, I move my mat a little bit more forwards, not too much forwards. And go back to the Janu-Sirsasana position that we were in earlier. So this one, and since we were here last time, we've done quite a lot more opening around our hips and our hamstrings. And my idea is that we might feel ready and comfortable to come into more of a sustained, longer hold in the Janu-Sirsasana than before, where we were flowing. As you might have noticed, I've popped up onto a block, and that may again help you to get that lift up and over the arrangement of the thigh bones here to get the bones of the pelvis to lift up and over walls of the thigh bones so that you can begin to hinge in. Now with the block, without the block, you can still bend your front knee. And really, for me, the whole idea here is to open the back of the leg, but also to open the leg through the spine. Before, when we were rolling, we were very, very actively using the breath. But here when we're static, we're using the breath in a sense to help us open the spine. But when we're static, we can still really work with using our breath to open our spines. Right from the tailbone, this lift. Breathing in, our diaphragm contracts. It lets us float our ribcage up and away. And as we breathe out, lift in the lower abdomen, let the navel draw to the spine. Weight of the hips sinks back and behind us. Got to keep reaching up and down, tailbone to crown. So now, of course, it's possible to do this without a block. And sort of here, and for me, as I have that openness, breath by breath, I'm actually a little freer without the block. So, as we ready again, let's just lift up and away from Janusasana. Now, if you're on the floor, if your hips are on the floor, it's a relatively easy transition from here to take the weight of your leg, use your abdominal muscles, so take this easily, and rolling back onto the mat, carrying your leg with you, and drawing into Supta Hasta Padangusthasana, lying on the back. So if you've got there, you can stay there. Now if you have the block underneath you, you're going to need to wriggle off the block and holding onto the leg. And then again, any lower back injuries or deconditioning of the bones of the spine, I would say come down very gently. Come down, rolling down with support from your arm, or even just come onto your side, roll onto your back, and then from there, let the leg lengthen up. So we might come back into a flowing action, breathing out, breathing in. But you might just find that after the Janusasana and a lot of the rest of the practice that we've been doing, that you've got a fair bit of space. But of course, the leg doesn't need to straighten. If it does straighten from the inside, little by little, opening and lengthening, then good. If it doesn't, there's no need to force it and pull it from the outside. We can just allow ourselves to be from the inside what we want. So then again, just going to fold that leg in again. Just going to let our lower leg draw up. Let's circle the hips on the mat 2 or 3 times here. And we can always from here roll back up, roll back down. So then again, rolling, not necessarily the best if the bones of the spine are deconditioned for any reason, or if you've got lower back injuries. Just think about rolling onto your side and then coming back up. So last time we balanced, and then from here we're just going to extend outwards into our left leg this time and tucking the right leg back. So again, we don't need to do a dramatic tuck back. We can have the leg in a lot softer, easier position, whatever feels right for us. And then also we can sit up on a block, and or we can have this knee a little bit more bent to help facilitate lengthening the spine in conjunction with lengthening our hamstrings. So as I was saying on the first side, seeing if we can still use the breath to open the spine, creating space, breathing out, just lengthening the hips away, reaching up and out of the core muscles, lower abdomen lifted, navel to the spine, ribs hugging in, shoulders draw away from the ears. So still lots of spinal movement here. To really find the position rather than, as people think, pulling down, dragging down. Not really. It's this finding the strength to lift and maneuver the spine right from the base of the spine. And then guess what? From base chakra through the whole spine, we're working this particular practice. And this, it really makes a difference. So now from here, again, as you're ready, you're just sort of more or less rolling up. Now, we looked at on the first side, I bent the knee to roll back, or otherwise you're rolling onto the side. From here, it could be, if you've got a long position, a strong position, you're mainly lifting the leg with your own strength and then rolling back with control. And this will carry you through in a way, if you've gone back, to stay back. But what we did a little bit more softly on the first side, holding the leg and coming back, rolling back with control, or with our arm here to cushion us, rolling back, or we just sandwich the legs together, come onto the side and down. And then from here as well, we can work with our breath, breathing out to hug in, breathing in to extend away. Just thinking about what feels right for you, or if you've got quite a lot of space, there's movement involved here to go on opening rather than pulling. It's really a little bit of movement all of the time to find the space within our bodies. So breathing, everyone, keeping your spine relaxed despite everything in these strange positions. And then as you're ready again, let's just roll that leg down. Let's hug the legs in and towards us, circling the hips on the mat 2 or 3 times one direction, and circling through 2 or 3 times opposite direction. That's as well, just think about a little bit of a spinal twist here. We did something like this very similar and seated after we were opening the hips and we did the Janu Sirsasana. The first time flowing with the breath, just going to let the lower spine flow in a twist now. I think in many ways nice here to take the legs quite wide, as wide apart as the yoga mat. And we might, if we feel stable, add a little bit more movement through the rest of the body. We might, as we twist our legs towards the right side, reach up and out into our left arm, and looking towards the left side with our eyes coming center. And same to the other side. So we've got lots of space there through the whole body, lots of stretch, like that. Good. So then, as you're ready, we're just going to allow our practice to even up to both sides. Let's draw back into the center. Let's space our spines out, tailbone to crown. We allow the arms to roll outwards. A good chance that we feel really ready just to let our legs extend away from us, the knees rolling outwards, toes rolling outwards, hips relaxing, weight of the hips on the mat, ribs, shoulders, and the head centered. If the lower back doesn't feel comfortable, just come back again, let your knees bend, soles of the feet rest in contact with the mat, and the knees coming into the center. Spend a few moments here simply to relax, simply to be in the body. Really allowing the body to rest, allowing the body to let go. We began the practice with just thinking about space through the spine, spaces through the spine, the weight of the spine. Again, checking in with the spaces through the spine here, the weight of the spine. Being aware of any space that may open up around the base of the spine, outwards into the hip bones, the hip joints, and right through into the legs. Just being aware of any energy that might be flowing from the base of the spine, through the pelvis into the legs and into the feet. Allowing the breath to keep flowing gently, easily, freely within the depth of the body. Transferring the awareness gently upwards into the region of the chest and the rib cage, and again just seeing if it's possible to soften the ribs gently away from the spine and the back of the chest. To feel the ribs just gently softening and falling away from the breastbone, the front of the spine. Just observing again the breath moving in the chest, relaxed as it is. And there from the rib cage, just being aware of any energy that might be flowing outwards into the shoulder joints, on into the arms, on into the wrists and the hands. But also the energy that might be releasing upwards through the vertebrae and the neck and right through towards the crown of the head. Becoming aware of the flow of the breath in the throat. Just allowing the throat to soften from the inside. The neck muscles to soften from the inside. Just relaxing into the energy of the flow of the breath in the throat. Little by little, bringing the awareness into the space behind the center of the forehead, the space that lies between the ears. Simply drifting, simply being in the space for a few moments. Knowing the living presence that inhabits the space. And the stillness, the oneness that paradoxically is a part of this living presence. Simply being through the length, through the breath, through the depth of the body. Simply being. Once again, just gradually being fully aware of the boundaries of the space of the body, the air on the skin, clothing on the skin, and the weight of the body as it rests on the mat. But think about feeling that the living presence is concentrated to within the space, inside the boundaries of the physical body. Just really gathering all of the living presence back into that space. Feeling once again the active flow of the breath into the body and out of the body, just allowing the breath to deepen, to strengthen, and to come back into something a little bit more suited again to movement and physical activity. And little by little, bringing some movement back into the body, into the toes and into the feet, into the fingers and into the hands. And gently and slowly allowing the head to turn towards one side to draw center, to release to the other side and to draw center. So we're really bringing it a couple of times in both directions. Allowing the senses to re-emerge, allowing the sense of sight to re-emerge, to reconnect fully with the space and environment where you are at present, and also the sense of hearing to move out and to reconnect fully with the space where you are at present. And then let's reach a stretch upwards and downwards through the whole body, letting the muscles re-engage again around the spine, engaging all through the back, into the arms, into the legs. And then again, as you feel comfortable, can hug the legs in and towards you, just circling the hips on the mat 2 or 3 times, one direction, 2 or 3 times opposite direction. And then once again, as you're ready, you can roll over, coming onto one side, pressing up away from the side towards the seated position. And let's bring ourselves into a comfortable seated position, whatever that might be for you. And just closing off the practice. Om Shanti Namaste. Thank you for sharing this practice with me and for being with me. And I hope that you enjoyed this yoga session and hope to see you again soon on Movement Style. Thank you for watching.